We're going to predict the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view coming up this Sunday, talk about Goldberg's title shot at WWE FastLane, the latest on Seth Rollins' knee injury and Samoa Joe's debut, the newest inductees into the WWE Hall of Fame, and what the rumored possible WrestleMania 33 card currently looks like. All that and more in episode 409. What is up? GoodMicWork back at you. Got a big one for you this week. I haven't been up here in about a week since it was announced that Seth Rollins suffered that knee injury during Samoa Joe's debut. And I feel like we've got some catching up to do. So we got a lot on the agenda tonight. We're going to talk about this past week's Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. I will review both shows. I'm going to predict the entire card for this Sunday's Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. We have a big title match announced for WWE FastLane coming up in a few weeks. I'm going to talk all about that and all the scenarios there. Take a look at what the rumored WrestleMania card currently looks like and where a lot of these guys might land and how the matches and storylines are going to play out. And Seth Rollins' injury is still kind of up in the air, and a lot of things are up in the air. So we're going to discuss all sorts of possibilities and speculate on a lot of things. It should just be a lot of fun discussion and chatter of what WWE could potentially do in the next 8 weeks here heading into WrestleMania. As always, if you do enjoy this video, please click that like button. You guys are always really cool about liking and sharing and commenting, but I always want to give a little reminder out there to continue hooking me up. You guys are doing a great job. I appreciate all your support. And please, please, please like and subscribe. Click that little bell next to the subscribe button. Make sure you get my notifications. Please follow me on Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter at GoodMicWork. I got a Facebook page. I got a website, GoodMicWorkCommentaries.com. You guys know about all of that. Please continue to support the channel and brand, and I appreciate it. Let's dive in to what we're talking about tonight. I guess we're going to start with Raw. Now, I was not home to watch Raw live, unfortunately. I love being home every Monday night and cracking open a couple of beers and live tweeting during the show with all of you. It's a lot of fun, but every now and then I find myself having to work or being preoccupied with something else, so I did have to miss the show this week, which kind of sucked because the show wasn't bad, and I was able to come home and watch it later on, and I did watch it in its entirety. So I'm going to kind of bounce around it, just talk about the main points, and then maybe backtrack and talk about some of the undercard matches. But the big stuff that went down, of course, we saw Samoa Joe debut last week attacking Seth Rollins. WWE did give an update on Seth during Monday Night Raw, but it really wasn't anything new. Basically, things are still up in the air with Seth Rollins. They don't know what they're going to do. Apparently, the story is he did tear his MCL, which apparently is like an 8-week recovery time. I don't even know if that requires surgery or not. I'm guessing that it does. But basically, that 8-week recovery time puts him right on the line to where technically he could be back in time for WrestleMania, but you also have to take into consideration that WWE might not want to rush him back and risk further injury because Seth Rollins is a big part of their roster. And if he needs just a couple of more weeks to heal fully, they might make him take that, which would be an absolute heartbreaking situation for Seth Rollins to miss 2 straight WrestleManias. So I'm really holding out hope that he can figure out a way to compete against Triple H and his match can go on as planned. If it doesn't, they're going to have to postpone it possibly until SummerSlam, which is fine because having Triple H cost Seth Rollins another WrestleMania could tie into the storyline really nicely and build a ton of heat. But just for Seth, I feel bad that he might have to miss 2 straight WrestleManias when he's in the prime of his career. I really don't want to see that happen, so I'm really holding out hope that maybe, possibly, he can get himself healthy enough to work and WWE actually lets him work. But Raw opened up this past week with Mick Foley and Stephanie introducing the guy that put Seth Rollins on the shelf, Samoa Joe. He comes out to officially sign his WWE contract. Mick Foley is coming off really disgusted by the whole thing, and he lets it be known, so they're continuing the tension between Mick Foley and Stephanie, and I'm wondering how much longer this is even going to last. Is Mick Foley even going to make it past WrestleMania? I think Mick Foley needs to remain the commissioner until WrestleMania because that's such a big weekend. You want to have him there. You know he's going to want to have his family around and be a part of the show. So hopefully in storyline they'll keep him as GM through WrestleMania, but right after that, Stephanie's going to have to do something to him to kick him out of that position or whatever. You can almost see it coming 10 miles away here. But Mick Foley's pretty disgusted with Samoa Joe and what he did to Seth Rollins, and Stephanie wants to suck his dick for it. So there's definitely a contrast here in the two people in charge running Monday Night Raw. Joe comes out in a suit, which I like. It looked good. Made him look like a hired gun. He gets on the mic and just impresses the hell out of me. And I've said this a couple of times in the past couple of years when guys like Kevin Owens has debuted or AJ Styles has debuted. One thing I love about them and what I saw in Samoa Joe on Raw is that they're complete and total confidence. They are not shaken or rattled or nervous by the stage that they're on. They handle it like a fucking boss. And they show the WWE that, you know what? There's actually a big world of professional wrestling outside of this company where guys can learn what they're doing. I thought Samoa Joe carried himself in the ring and on the mic as if he had been in the WWE for 15 years. I feel the same way about AJ Styles. I feel the same way about Kevin Owens. Those guys seem absolutely fearless out there, and their level of confidence and their ability, their self-awareness of their value is what I respect in so many wrestlers. I think it's really going to reinforce WWE's new attitude of going out and signing some of these independent guys that they would have never even looked at years ago. And now you know that they realize that there's a lot of great talent out there, and they're starting to bring it in. So when guys like Joe and AJ and Owens perform at the level that they do, I'm always happy. So Joe got on the mic and basically says the entire locker room is on notice, which then prompts Roman Reigns to come out. And I know none of us really like to hear Roman Reigns cut promos, but the promo was not horrible this time, and there was one thing that Roman said in the promo that I actually really liked, and it got me thinking about something, and he threw out the my yard phrase again, which he did to The Undertaker at the Royal Rumble. Now, clearly it looks like they're moving towards a Roman Reigns-Undertaker match at WrestleMania. We can kind of see that. That seems pretty obvious. And I talked about this in detail in my last commentary, and I was screaming to the WWE to please turn this guy heel and use this match with The Undertaker to get Roman Reigns over in a major way. The fans need to understand that they can hate him all they want, that's fine, but he isn't going anywhere. He's going to be a big part of the WWE for years to come. So you would think as a fan who hates this guy, that wouldn't you want to be able to tolerate this guy? For me, it almost seems like the fans enjoy hating him. They want him to suck, and they want WWE to continue using him in the worst possible way so they have a reason to complain. But I'm saying to myself, flip this shit over on its ear and take advantage of the opportunity you have here. The Undertaker, as we've seen the last couple of times on TV, he is a mess. He can barely fucking walk. I am really tired of seeing the guy wrestle. The Undertaker is on my top 10 favorites of all time. You guys know that. He's a legend. He's an icon, but I think he could be damaging his reputation by being in the ring so long to the point where he can't even really scarcely move. Andre did that. Hogan did that. They look terrible at the end of their careers. And although I would love to see The Undertaker as much as possible for as long as possible, it's become 100% clear to all of us that this guy needs to retire sooner rather than later. I cannot imagine him being around for WrestleMania 34 or WrestleMania 35. This is the best opportunity that WWE is going to have to end the legacy of The Undertaker. This has to be it. Because think about what you can do with Roman Reigns by doing that, especially if Roman Reigns goes into WrestleMania and beats The Undertaker. It's The Undertaker's last match. Roman Reigns gets to be only one of two people to defeat The Undertaker at WrestleMania, and he gets to be known for the rest of his career as the guy that retired The Undertaker. And if he does that by turning heel, you put a mean streak in him, you have him crush the career of a legend, and you have him get on the mic and tell the fans to fuck off, that's money. So that's what I want to see the WWE do. I think it would be such a perfect way for The Undertaker to go out, especially at the end of Roman's career, whatever his final list of accolades turns out to be, and whenever he goes into the Hall of Fame, this is going to be one of the things that he's going to be known for. I'm just thinking along the lines of WWE's train of thought. If I was in their position, that's what I would do with Roman Reigns. Wouldn't you think that would be better than just continuing on the same track with him, having him come out there every week, cut lame promos, win handicap matches, kick out of finishers, and basically do everything that drives you nuts right now? Don't you think it would be better for them to use their investment wisely? Think about how much money WWE is paying this motherfucker. They're paying him millions of dollars a year. Why don't you get some money back out of him as a draw? Fuck the t-shirts. Who cares how many little kids are buying the Roman Reigns t-shirts? It's time to get away from that train of thought. They made that mistake with John Cena, and I really don't want to see him do it again with Roman Reigns. So when Roman Reigns said, "This is my yard" to Samoa Joe, what I would like to see in addition to his feud with The Undertaker, if this match at WrestleMania does in fact happen, Roman Reigns beats him, The Undertaker retires, I would like to see The Undertaker bequeath that my yard stuff to Roman Reigns. I would like to see Roman Reigns start saying that. Maybe he can carry on the legacy of this is my yard, I own this ring, that attitude that The Undertaker had for so long that he kind of started as the biker Undertaker. Isn't that when he started saying my yard? So if he's going to ride off into the sunset now, and maybe he kind of hands over that little kind of catchphrase or that attitude to the next generation, kind of a passing of the torch or a passing of the yard kind of thing to Roman Reigns, I would like that because the guy's no good on the mic. So, if he was able to carry on a legacy of a famous catchphrase by an icon with that icon's blessing, what if The Undertaker does something in storyline that says, you know what, this is your yard now. Maybe the next night on Raw after Taker loses, he comes out and congratulates Roman Reigns for beating him and says he's going to retire and this is your yard, defend it well, good luck, brother, and heads off into the sunset. He could do something like that. I think when you look at all the different possibilities for The Undertaker to leave, for The Undertaker to have his final match, this really is their best chance. They didn't go with John Cena and The Undertaker. I thought that could have been The Undertaker's final match. Now I understand why they didn't want to go with that match, because if they want to have The Undertaker lose in his last match, John Cena is not the guy that needs that victory. John Cena is John Cena. He's been on top for 15 years, literally crammed down the throats and shoved up the ass of all of us wrestling fans for over a decade and a half. So you would think that if The Undertaker is going to suffer that loss, instead of giving it to a guy like Brock, like they did a couple of years ago, who's already established, or giving it to a guy like Cena, who's already been established for over 10 years as well, why not give it to one of the guys that's going to be the future of your company? You can make other arguments too. I'm not saying that Kevin Owens or Samoa Joe or AJ Styles isn't worthy of beating The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Sure, if that makes you feel better, yes, any of those guys could be involved in that match as well. But clearly it looks like they're not. It's going to be Roman Reigns, and at least he's a guy that's going to be on the roster for 10 plus more years. He is younger. He's got a checkered past with his legacy. The fans, did like him at one point when he was in the Shield, but they turned on him hardcore when he became the John Cena 2.0 babyface. This is a chance to change all of that. Moving back to Monday Night Raw now, when Joe and Roman were done jawing at each other, Mick Foley chimes in and says, hey, I'm still the GM. I'm still the guy that makes the matches, so I'm going to make Samoa Joe versus Roman Reigns tonight. So Samoa Joe's very first match on the main roster was going to be a main event of Raw against Raw's top guy. So that's a pretty big deal for him. The match was okay, just two big, beefy ass kickers going at it. I'm surprised they didn't hold this thing off for a pay-per-view. But they gave Joe the victory here. He attacked Roman Reigns before the match, which was perfect. The two guys battled for a little while in the ring. Braun Strowman finally, predictably came out there, which you knew he would. He destroyed like 4 jobbers earlier on in the night, and then demanded Mick Foley give him more competition, so he's back to doing that again, and confronts Mick backstage, and Mick makes Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns for FastLane, which we had a feeling would happen. So that match is now set for the pay-per-view, and Braun Strowman is kind of agitated, so you had a feeling he was going to make an appearance in this match. He did. Roman Reigns fought him off, hit him with a Superman punch, I think, off the apron, and then Joe was able to catch him from behind and hit his suplex finisher thing for the pin and got a victory over Roman Reigns on Monday Night Raw. So hopefully he will be a big part of Monday Night Raw. Hopefully title belts will be in his future, and I think he probably will get some title shots this year in 2017. I think the match planned for Fastlane was going to be Samoa Joe versus Seth Rollins. That's not going to happen now, clearly. So we have to figure out what they're going to do with Samoa Joe, not only at Fastlane, but at WrestleMania. And we'll talk about the WrestleMania card in a little bit, but when you list out all the matches that are kind of rumored so far, none of them include Samoa Joe. So I pitched the idea last week about maybe the only possible match for Samoa Joe at WrestleMania, and it would even be a stretch if they did it, but it's really the only one that they could, tie in storyline-wise, and that is have him face Triple H. But even that match is something that I don't know if we would want to see. It would feel forced. It would feel like Triple H is having a match at WrestleMania just for the sake of having a match at WrestleMania. So I said in my last couple of commentaries that if Seth is injured, then Triple H just need not wrestle at this WrestleMania. It's not a big deal for him to miss one. Otherwise, it feels like he is just shoehorning himself into this card just to have a presence there when it's really not needed. I'm not against Triple H wrestling. I still think even at his age, he's in great shape and has great ability, and he's always been good in the ring. I have no problem with him having WrestleMania matches, but right now he really doesn't have a storyline if the Seth Rollins stuff doesn't work out. So if Seth doesn't work, I think Triple H shouldn't work. Braun Strowman is another guy that I'm curious about for WrestleMania because I don't really have him penciled in for any sort of a match either, and I'm worried that he's just going to be put in front of Roman Reigns for Roman Reigns to run over on his path to The Undertaker. Is he going to have a one-on-one match? I still think Braun Strowman has babyface potential. Maybe he could turn face and face Samoa Joe or something at Mania. I don't know how good that match would be, but at least it would give them both something to do. Or they could put him in the Battle Royal. I mean, they could do that with Samoa Joe too, but I don't think Joe or Strowman really needs the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. As a feather in their cap, they're already pretty much established, but with Strowman, maybe you could just put him in there as the favorite and he kills everybody, throws them all over the top rope, and carries that trophy around for a while. It seems like the Battle Royal these days is being used to, other than the time Big Show won it, to get kind of newer guys over, when Cesaro won it a couple of years ago, and now Baron Corbin most recently. So I don't know if Joe or Strowman would really be good candidates to win, but they could do that with him. Other than that, at this point, I don't know what either one of them are going to be doing, especially if there's no other title belt, because Jericho is probably going to be U.S. champ going into WrestleMania, and he's going to be working with Kevin Owens. So there's a lot of guys still kind of in limbo here. Sami Zayn is another guy. That could actually probably be a match. What if they did some big final blow-off, some gimmick match between Sami Zayn and Braun Strowman? That is definitely a possibility. They could even put Sami Zayn in front of Samoa Joe as just a random singles match, kind of like how they did Randy Orton and CM Punk a few years ago. Just a random good match between two mid to top level guys on your card, and have Samoa Joe beat him. But like I said, I'll roll through the WrestleMania card and what it's looking like in a little bit here when I'm done talking about Raw and SmackDown. The other big angle that dropped on Raw was kind of a big one, a really big one. And I'm surprised not a lot of people were buzzing about this as much. And it's a situation, a scenario that I talked about, we all talked about for the past few weeks. And that, of course, is that Goldberg is, in fact, going to be getting a title shot against Kevin Owens at FastLane. It was a big promo with Owens and Jericho. They're out there in the ring. Jericho starts pitching the idea of Kevin Owens versus Chris Jericho, best friend versus best friend, title for title, in the main event of WrestleMania. That's the match that Jericho says should happen. I thought these guys were best friends. Why do they want to fight each other? I always thought the match between Jericho and Kevin Owens would wind up taking place because the friendship implodes. But now Jericho is just saying, oh, we should just face each other, and it'll be the greatest WrestleMania main event in history, which prompts Goldberg to come out. And Goldberg did much better this time than he did the last time, where he bashed his head on the fucking door and cut himself open and botched his promo. He was actually pretty solid on Raw. Cut a much better promo than he did last time. Even grabbed Jericho's list and put his own name on it. And he did accept Brock Lesnar's challenge for WrestleMania. And then he got in Kevin Owens' face because Jericho kind of instigates the whole thing by saying, you know, Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg is going to be a great undercard match. But this right here, me and my best friend, were the main event. And that's when Goldberg says, how about me and Kevin Owens go one-on-one for the Universal Championship at FastLane? And then Jericho does all the talking and winds up accepting the match on Kevin Owens' behalf. So there you go. All the groundwork is laid now. That's going to be your reason for your match at WrestleMania between Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho. Most likely is that Owens will lose the title to Goldberg. He'll be pissed at Chris Jericho for getting him into that situation to begin with. The two will have a big match at WrestleMania, probably for the U.S. title, have a couple of rematches, and then Chris Jericho will take some time off and go do his Fozzy stuff. And Owens can continue on as U.S. champion. That's kind of where it's looking like it's going here, which means Goldberg is going to be the Universal Champion. Goldberg is going to beat Kevin Owens at FastLane. That's actually what I'm predicting right now. We have 4 weeks until this pay-per-view, so there's a lot that can happen. And I'm actually in favor of it. Some people are like, oh, Goldberg, I don't want him to beat Kevin Owens. Owens has had this long run. This is the same exact thing that happened to CM Punk. He had that long run, and then he dropped it to The Rock. It's for a bigger main event. It's for a bigger purpose. And although I love Kevin Owens as Universal Champion, I love that he's a main event player now. When you think of Brock versus Goldberg and the rumors that this match will be the main event of WrestleMania, a title to me justifies it. I'm actually in favor of this because now, if you have Brock and Goldberg in the main event, your other two championships don't look like shit by both being defended earlier on in the card. They did that a few years ago with Rock and John Cena when Rock made his return to the company. Those guys were the main event and they had 2 world title matches earlier on. So now it almost justifies this match being the main event, is if you put the belt on Goldberg and he goes in to defend it against Brock Lesnar. And a lot of people are saying it's going to be the opposite of that. A lot of people are saying that Brock Lesnar is going to interfere and cost Goldberg the match. Because if you remember, when they wrestled the first time at WrestleMania 20, it was Goldberg that cost Brock the WWE title against Eddie Guerrero. So it's like payback. But I find that really stupid because unlike in 2004, the WrestleMania match wasn't announced yet. That match that Brock lost made him challenge Bill Goldberg because he was so furious at Bill for costing him the title. I don't see any motivation for Brock to do the same thing to Goldberg. Brock should want Goldberg to be the Universal Champion going into WrestleMania because he's already challenged this guy, a guy that's had his number, that's owned him. And the last 3 times that they faced each other, he has this big challenge against Goldberg to redeem himself and restore his manhood. And then you add the cherry on top of a world title on top of it. That's the match I actually want to see. I'm probably in the minority in that, but if you look at it from WWE's point of view and the fans' point of view, it almost makes the most sense because first of all, you don't want to have Goldberg lose a match prior to going into WrestleMania to face Brock Lesnar. When Goldberg does get beat, Brock Lesnar needs to be the guy to do it, not Kevin Owens. And I also mentioned a few commentaries ago that they have this new title. It's the Universal title. It's only been in existence since last August. Finn Balor held it for 1 day. Kevin Owens has held it ever since. It doesn't have a legacy yet. And think about 10 years from now, because make no mistake about it, it looks like the brand extension is here to stay. When you think about how WWE has expanded with NXT, with 205 Live, with the UK show that they're going to be starting up, they are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I can't see them ever combining the rosters again. The brand extension is probably here to stay, and so is the Universal title. So in 10 years from now, when you look at the list of guys that held that belt, you're going to have Brock Lesnar and Goldberg on that list. And I know it's something that a lot of fans probably don't think about, but it's something that I think about, and I think the WWE thinks about too. So I think for the good of the legacy of the Universal title and for its value, to have a couple of guys like that on the list, even if it's for just a short time, because if Goldberg does win it and drop it to Brock, that's only going to be like a 3 or 4 week title reign at the most there. So I know these reigns aren't long, but still, just to have them on the list of guys that have held it. I even think Triple H will probably wind up holding that belt at some point before he retires too. So I think they want to kind of build and develop the legacy of the Universal title, and putting it on an icon like Goldberg and putting it on like a badass, legit competitor like Brock, I think adds value to it. It doesn't decrease it. Yes, it kind of sucks what's going to happen to Kevin Owens, but at the same time, it's not like he's left out in the cold. He's got his friend Chris Jericho to work with. This is a match that these guys are probably really looking forward to having together. Whether it's for a world title or not, it should just be fun for the two of them who've been on TV together for so long. They're friends. They get along. Jericho might even be somewhat of a mentor to Kevin Owens, teaching him some things and shit like that as far as WWE goes. The two guys have been absolute gold on TV together. So for the whole thing to culminate in a WrestleMania match, I don't think is all that bad because the program is going to be pretty successful and Kevin Owens will probably get the best of it and kick Jericho right out of the WWE. And it's not like Kevin Owens can never work for a world title ever again. He's now a former champion. He's going to have rematches out the ass. Think about it. If he does lose to Goldberg, he is entitled to a rematch, right? But if Goldberg already has his match signed with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, he can't get in on that unless you make it a triple threat, and WWE's not going to do that. So I think maybe Kevin Owens is just going to focus his energy on Chris Jericho and getting him out of his life, and then he will focus his energy back on the Universal title, and maybe Owens will get a match with Brock. Maybe it's SummerSlam or something like that. Who knows? So there's an endless amount of options that they can do for everybody throughout 2017. And actually, speaking of SummerSlam, come to think of it, that actually might be your main event right there. There's a real good SummerSlam prediction for you, an early one. Mark the date. Main event of SummerSlam 2017, a big rematch that we still really have not gotten. And it can be between the only two guys that have ever defeated The Undertaker at WrestleMania. It can be Brock Lesnar, Universal Champion, defending against Roman Reigns in the main event of SummerSlam. That could be a pretty big match. Some people might puke at that, but think about it. After WrestleMania 31, when Seth cashed in, and that great match that Roman and Brock actually had, we never really got an answer there of who was the best or whatever. And WWE, aside from a few times that they've interacted in some brawls, and Roman's been F5'd and Brock's been hit with a spear or Superman punch here or there, we have not seen them wrestle again. So, you're always looking for a big-time match for your second biggest pay-per-view of the year. And I think that would be a pretty big one. So pencil that in as a big possibility, Brock versus Roman for WWE Raw's biggest prize. So anyway, that's an option as well. But in order to set all of that in motion, Goldberg has to start by beating Kevin Owens at FastLane. Now here's another question. How does Kevin Owens lose this match to Goldberg? We've only seen Goldberg in the ring for 4 minutes in the last 12 years. If Goldberg came out and squashed Brock Lesnar essentially twice at the Survivor Series and the Royal Rumble, why would he not squash Kevin Owens also? You gotta wonder, how long is this match going to be? Is Kevin Owens gonna get in some offense? Is he going to expose Goldberg for not probably knowing what the fuck he's doing in there? Are they gonna go 15 minutes? Are they gonna go 12? Are they gonna go 10? Are they gonna go 5? Are they going to go 1? Now that's one thing I will say. I don't want to see that. If he did, that would make him just that much stronger facing Brock, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I would like to see at least Kevin Owens get something in. And Jericho will probably play a role in that. We saw on Monday Night Raw that Jericho, after he accepted Goldberg's challenge on Kevin Owens' behalf, Owens was pissed about it. And they talked about it backstage, and Owens actually, he got over it. He forgave Jericho. He even went out there to support Jericho in his U.S. title match against Sami Zayn, and ended up helping him win by kicking Sami Zayn when he was laying on the ropes, and allowed Jericho to hit him with the code breaker and retain the title. So the two are still best friends, but you can see this coming a mile away. Jericho is probably going to cost Kevin Owens that match somehow. Either that or Goldberg is just going to run over Kevin Owens in 1 minute, and Kevin Owens is going to be so mad he's going to blame Jericho for the whole thing. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't even have to face this motherfucker, and look what happened to me. And then you can kickstart their WrestleMania feud as well. So I'm kind of curious what kind of match Goldberg is going to have. I'm excited to see FastLane, to see exactly what Goldberg can do in there in a match that might actually last longer than 2 fucking minutes. Another thing I hope WWE is thinking about too, as far as how they book the match between Owens and Goldberg, you gotta make sure that Goldberg stays the babyface. Now, he pretty much is. Fans are still into seeing him. They're chanting Goldberg. Nobody is really booing the guy, other than the night that he fucked up his promo like crazy. But for the most part, the fans are into him being there. It's not like Batista when they booed their asses off for him. They seem a little bit into Goldberg a little bit more. So they have to be careful for Goldberg not to completely destroy Kevin Owens, because that might piss off a lot of the internet people and stuff. And then you're going to get Goldberg some heat or whatever. So, and on top of that, you're talking about your WrestleMania main event here that's probably going to end with technically a heel winning the championship, which is kind of rare. And when you look at the way it's all kind of playing out here, it makes a lot of sense. You know, when Goldberg came back last year and signed that contract, you know he was probably promised something. So having a small, short world title run might have been part of the deal. And if they said, okay, you know, you're going to have to lose a match, but you're also going to look very good too. You're going to squash Brock at Survivor Series. You'll dump him out of the Royal Rumble, and then you'll win the title. And then you're going to have to go drop it clean to Brock at WrestleMania. Everybody's happy. Everybody wins. Goldberg wins a little. Brock wins a little. They both win a title belt. It's probably a lot of money involved here as far as what they're paying Goldberg and what this match is going to draw because of how it went down at Survivor Series and everything. So really, it's all starting to make sense now. As we get down to the go-home Raw, who knows what my opinions will be. I might predict the match completely differently, but right now, I see Goldberg spearing and pinning Kevin Owens for the championship and going on to face Brock. WrestleMania is looking intriguing. I'm not that freaked out by the card. A lot of people are bitching about the card and everything, but when you look at it, we'll talk about it later, but when you look at it, it's definitely a lot better, I think, than it was last year. Or at least it has more potential. Last year was frightening as hell with that Roman Reigns and Triple H match because we all knew where it was headed. This year, I think they're going to have a little bit more fun with it. Since I've been spending so much time talking about Roman Reigns and Samoa Joe and The Undertaker and Goldberg and Brock and Owens and what they're all going to be doing at WrestleMania and what they did on Monday Night Raw, let me just blow through quickly the rest of the results of Monday Night Raw. Nothing too crazy. Nia Jax beat Bayley after Charlotte interfered. She came down and got on the ropes or something like that, allowed Nia Jax to catch Bayley from behind and pin her. They have announced a WWE championship, a women's championship match, for next week. Charlotte will be taking on Bayley. So it'll be another match on Raw for the title. Charlotte is a boss on pay-per-views, but she got beat by the boss a lot on Raw for the title. So who's to say that Bayley can't grab the belt real quick here and have maybe a short run with it, and then Charlotte regains it at FastLane? That is definitely a possibility. So whatever they're doing, I'm sure, is a setup for whatever sort of women's match they're going to have at WrestleMania. The club beat Cesaro and Sheamus. I think this was a tag team title match as well. Enzo and Cass were out there for some reason. Enzo's sitting there in a computer chair. He gets kicked in the face by Gallows, and Big Cass comes to his defense, and the referee has no choice but to call for the bell, DQ, and Gallows and Anderson hold on to the tag team titles for now. The New Day also beat the Shining Stars. We had Akira Tozawa debuting against Drew Gulak. He was in the Cruiserweight Classic tournament, and he's going to be a part of 205 Live now. He won with a pretty sweet snap German suplex. I don't know what he calls that thing, but it looked pretty awesome. Austin Aries did an in-ring interview with Neville. He announced that on 205 Live the next night, there was going to be a fatal 5-way elimination match to determine a new number 1 contender. I actually did take a look at that match on 205 Live. Jack Gallagher won that. We've got some Emma news. They ran another vignette, the same promo that they've always aired, only this time they're claiming that she is going to debut next week. Now, they already claimed that she's going to debut once before, and she never did. So I'm not completely convinced that this is even happening. But if it is, I have no idea what they're going to do with her now. If she just comes out there with that supermodel music and with a bunch of makeup on, it's like, yeah, all those promos, all those vignettes for this, there's got to be something else there. She's got to come out and completely surprise us. She should maybe come out as a complete opposite of what her vignettes are showing. You know, they're showing her in bikinis, and she's just some prim and proper type of supermodel chick. Maybe she comes out all grungy or emo or gothy or something like that. I proposed the idea of her showing up on SmackDown, and Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan, you know, worked out some sort of a scam where they got free publicity and free promotion and advertising on Monday Night Raw, hyping up her debut, and then she shows up on SmackDown. Maybe that can spark or kickstart a war for WrestleMania, because later on when I go through the WrestleMania matches, I don't think we have any interpromotional matches announced yet. We might not have any at all. So maybe something like that could spark a feud, but it's not looking likely. I think Emma is going to show up on Raw, and I'm worried that it's going to be a flop at this point. So whatever they do next week, I just hope that they continue to troll us, that she doesn't get in the ring, that she doesn't do anything, or she doesn't show up, much like they did with Eva Marie, or she shows up and completely surprises us. Like I said, maybe she's completely different. Maybe her character is nothing like what her vignettes are showing. Anything like that is what I'm hoping they do. If Emma comes out there, although she's beautiful, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't complain about seeing her in a bikini, but if she just came out there and did that, then it's like, okay, well, where's the surprise part? All those vignettes, all that hype, all that build, just to give us nothing. So I don't know. We'll see next week. It should be interesting when she finally does debut. I'm just hoping she won't be Glacier. Also on Raw, WWE announced the latest inductees into the Hall of Fame, and it's the Rock and Roll Express. Great for them. They were huge back in the NWA, back in the 80s. More than deserved. Long overdue for those guys. They were the Rockers before the Rockers. They were doing a lot of those double team moves and a lot of the tag team stuff, the tag team specialist type of shit. They were a couple of Southern boys with mullets. The women went absolutely nuts over them. They would literally throw their panties at them. It's so funny what women considered sexy back in the mid-'80s when you look back on it now. But they were so over, not only with the women, but also the men. I mean, because the Rock and Roll Express were doing so many innovative things in there that the men were tolerating the fact that the women went apeshit over these guys. So they were just over all around, one of the most over tag teams in wrestling history. Only had a couple of stints with the WWE. They came in 93 when they were working in Smoky Mountain. I think they worked SummerSlam or Survivor Series. Pretty sure it was Survivor Series of 93 against the Heavenly Bodies. And then they came back in again in 98 when Jim Cornette was doing the whole NWA thing with Jeff Jarrett and Barry Windham and the new Midnight Express. What was it? Bombastic Bob and Bodacious Bart or whatever the fuck. So it's good to see the Rock and Roll Express in there. 99.9% of their success came in the NWA. That's what they were known for. Very little elsewhere. Very little in the WWE, but still more than worthy of going into the WWE Hall of Fame, and good for them. I have no idea at this point who would induct them right now as far as who's in the company. Maybe Michael Hayes or somebody like that. They could always bring Jim Ross in. I doubt Jim Cornette would be able to come and do it. Although Jim Cornette should be inducted in the Hall of Fame with the Midnight Express, or at least be the inductors to the Midnight Express if they went in. But Cornette is on such poor terms with them. I don't think that's going to happen. So I guess it's up in the air at this point who will induct a Rock and Roll. But I'm happy to see him in there, and that is a really nice addition to the class this year. So they're the only ones, along with Kurt, right, that has been announced. I can't remember who else they've announced, but there's still been rumors about Rick Rude. Would love to see Davey Boy get in still. I think they've been talking about doing Diamond Dallas Page, possibly even Vader. Beth Phoenix is another name that's floated around. So I'm sure the class this year will be pretty solid, especially with Kurt headlining. How can it not be? Let's move on to what took place on SmackDown this week. This will be a much quicker show to review. I feel like I talked about Raw forever there. But SmackDown was in Seattle. Raw was in Portland. So Seattle, of course, is Daniel Bryan's hometown. He came out in front of the hometown crowd. They popped their ass off for him, chanted their balls off, and he even went on to announce that he's going to be a father and all of that. So great for Daniel Bryan. Good to see him in the ring with a smile on his face, the crowd going nuts. It's bittersweet because it makes me so sad that he's not in the ring wrestling anymore. And I was still holding out hope for that when when The Miz interrupted and got in Daniel Bryan's face, I'm like, oh, maybe they can still set something up for WrestleMania. I think I got to let go of that dream. I've been clinging to it, but I really don't think it's going to happen. I think Miz is out there just basically rambling on about the Elimination Chamber, which prompts everybody to come out there. Baron Corbin comes out there, Dean Ambrose, AJ Styles, they all say a few words, and then Daniel Bryan says, why don't we make a fatal four-way match tonight to give everybody a little preview of the Elimination Chamber, and they go to commercial, and that match kicks off Monday Night Raw, and Baron Corbin gets the victory, pinning AJ Styles. I like that. Good for Corbin. The main event of SmackDown, of course, was advertised to be John Cena versus Randy Orton. They announced that last week. This is a match that we could potentially see at WrestleMania if John Cena retains in the Elimination Chamber, but it's looking less and less likely. I really don't think we have to worry about John Cena versus Randy Orton. They added to their legacy this week on SmackDown in a one-on-one match. Everybody got involved as far as the Wyatt family goes. Bray Wyatt got involved. Luke Harper got involved and finally seemingly broke the spell of Bray Wyatt, and he nailed Bray with a vicious clothesline. And Randy Orton tries to give Harper an RKO. Harper counters and pushes him right into an AA from John Cena. John Cena pins Randy Orton, gets the victory. So I am really thinking we are not going to see John Cena versus Randy Orton. I think the likely scenario in the Elimination Chamber is Bray Wyatt winning it at this point. I mean, what other choices do they have? Randy Orton is the one getting the title shot at WrestleMania. They can't change that. So it seems like Bray Wyatt would be the most likely choice to win this match so he can defend against Randy Orton. I think maybe Bray Wyatt should even retain against Randy Orton at WrestleMania, because we know we're probably going to have one title belt change at Mania if Goldberg winds up beating Owens for the Universal title. So I think somebody can retain, and I think Randy Orton can be one of those guys that wins the Royal Rumble and does not successfully win the title at WrestleMania. Bray Wyatt can be a fresh new champion, and he can use Randy Orton to help get him over and get his title run moving a little bit. And right now, that's kind of what I'm hoping that they do. To me, that makes the most sense. But I'll predict Elimination Chamber here in a minute. But as far as the rest of SmackDown, not a whole lot. Nikki and Natalya furthered their angle by doing a satellite interview this time. It's like they were in separate locations and they were all made up and they just argued a little bit. And Nikki, I think, even just walked off the interview and didn't even finish it. It was kind of bad. I just don't like watching these people try to act. Sometimes it's horrible. But they've got a big match, of course, this coming Sunday, which we'll talk about in a minute. Apollo Crews beat Dolph Ziggler really quickly, just in like a minute or something like that, which triggers Dolph to go crazy. He attacks Crews, and Kalisto runs out to try to make the save, and he beats them both down with a chair. He runs into Daniel Bryan backstage, and Daniel Bryan makes a handicap match at FastLane to kind of punish Dolph. He's going to be taking on Kalisto and Apollo Crews in a 2-on-1 handicap match at the pay-per-view. We also had a dual contract signing for the other two ladies matches that's taking place at Elimination Chamber. It's Alexa Bliss defending against Naomi and Mickie James taking on Becky Lynch. The whole thing ended up in a big brawl, of course, but I do believe all the contracts got signed. Everybody had a chance to say a few words, and it was what it was. The Ascension got a victory as well. All these tag teams, I think it was like a 12-man tag, they're all going to be involved in some sort of a tag team turmoil match as well at Elimination Chamber, but the Ascension actually scored the victory in this thing, and I don't even know when the last time as a tag team they won a match. I can't even think of them winning one since they've fucking debuted. So you guys are going to have to tell me that. But maybe, just maybe, Ascension doing absolutely nothing for the past, year or two is finally starting to change, and maybe they'll get a little push or a little run or some title shots or something. Who knows? I don't really care either way, but I did get a chuckle out of the fact that they actually won that match. Good for them. So that is your SmackDown in a nutshell. Why don't we go ahead and predict the Elimination Chamber? By the way, join me this Sunday. I will be home live tweeting and watching the pay-per-view live. I will come up here and do a reaction video after and all of that. And even though we're going to see potentially a new WWE champion, aside from that, this pay-per-view kind of looks like ass on paper. I mean, first of all, I only have 7 matches written down, and 3 of them are ladies' matches. I mean, half of this pay-per-view are women's matches. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing or anything, but, I think the only match I really care about in this is the main event. So why don't we start with the ladies' matches? We got Mickie James versus Becky Lynch. I gotta predict Mickie here. Her tag team lost at the Royal Rumble, and I predicted them to win, and since Mickie James has only recently returned to the company, I think they should give her a couple of victories, especially on pay-per-view, so I think she's gonna defeat Becky Lynch, so I pick Mickie James in that one. Nikki Bella taking on Natty. I think Nikki Bella is gonna wrap up this feud with Natalya. I think Nikki is gonna win because the rumors right now are that, number one, she's gonna be taking time off after WrestleMania, WrestleMania. And number two, she might be working with John Cena in a mixed tag against Miz and Maurice. So if she does in fact do this, she's got to finish up business with Natalya, which means she's probably going to have to win this feud. So I see Nikki Bella coming out on top in that match. Alexa Bliss defending the SmackDown Ladies Championship against Naomi. I got to go with Alexa on that. I like Naomi, but I don't see her as somebody that they're really going to put the belt on right now. I see her as another way to just extend the title reign of Alexa and give her some more victories, and she'll go into Mania, I'm sure, as the women's champion. So I got Mickie James, Nikki Bella, and Alexa Bliss to win the three ladies matches. Apollo Crews and Kalisto taking on Dolph Ziggler in a 2-on-1 handicap match. In this one, what do they do? Is this just going to be a 2-on-1 handicap match and Crews and Kalisto are just going to beat the piss out of Dolph for 10 minutes and pin him? Or are they going to do some sort of a heel turn? Maybe Kalisto goes heel. Maybe Crews goes heel. I don't know. Maybe they do something. Who knows? But I can't see Dolph winning. I mean, if Dolph couldn't beat Crews in 1 minute on SmackDown, how is he going to beat Crews and Kalisto unless Dolph capitalizes on some huge miscommunication between the two of them and maybe scores some sort of a cheap victory or something like that? But I think I'm going to go ahead and say Crews and Kalisto are going to win that. Randy Orton taking on Luke Harper. You got to go with Randy Orton. He's getting the title shot at WrestleMania. Luke Harper's, I guess, is recently babyface, and I love Luke Harper. I'm really hoping that they can do things with him on the main roster now, and I guess maybe it's possible he could beat Randy Orton. I should take that back. I shouldn't so confidently pick Randy Orton. Maybe Luke Harper could actually win, but if they're doing what I think they're going to do at WrestleMania, and I think Orton is going to unsuccessfully challenge for the WWE title, then I think he has to have a victory here. So I'm still going to predict Randy Orton to defeat Luke Harper. The Tag Team Turmoil match, I guess this is for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. I don't even know what to make of that. I'm just going to pick American Alpha to retain. They should. They probably will. So I'm going to go with them. And then, of course, the Elimination Chamber match. Who's in this thing? We got Dean Ambrose. We've got Baron Corbin, AJ Styles, John Cena, The Miz, and who the hell am I missing? Bray Wyatt. Oh yeah, Jesus Christ, Bray Wyatt, the guy I'm fucking predicting to win this thing. I almost forgot. So yeah, I'm going to go with Wyatt. I like this idea of Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton for the WWE title. What else do you do with him at this point? I mean, he's going to be one of your SmackDown veterans, and he's never even had a world title run yet. He's never had any title run at all, other than the cup of coffee he had with the tag belts late last year with Orton. So I think now is Bray's time. Put the title on him in the Elimination Chamber. He can have the big match with Randy Orton. He can go on to have rematches with Randy Orton, possibly even face John Cena, and even have some matches with AJ Styles. So for me, a Bray Wyatt title run is a good thing. It's something that I'm actually looking forward to. So I'm going to predict that John Cena's 16th reign is short-lived, and he loses in the Elimination Chamber, and Bray Wyatt walks away with the title. But you got to think, if they do that, the next pay-per-view for WWE is WrestleMania. So is John Cena going to be like, I want my rematch? He can't get it at WrestleMania because Bray Wyatt's going to be facing Randy Orton. So maybe John Cena will get a rematch on SmackDown, or maybe something will transpire with Nikki Bella and The Miz, and John Cena has to focus his energy on defending the honor of his woman, and he puts the title on the back burner. Because you got to think, if Bray Wyatt comes out of this match as champion, John Cena is not just going to go away. So they're probably going to have some SmackDown matches, and since we have so long now between WrestleMania, you got a lot of time on SmackDown to have some world title matches. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Cena gets a shot, if maybe even AJ gets a shot, all on SmackDown leading up to WrestleMania. So just to recap, the 7 matches, I am picking Mickie James, Nikki Bella, Alexa Bliss, Kalisto and Crews, Randy Orton, American Alpha, and Bray Wyatt to all pick up victories at Elimination Chamber. Join me live this Sunday on Twitter to find out how right or wrong I turn out to be. Before we get into WrestleMania here, I just want to mention a couple of other quick news tidbits. I have not yet seen the XFL 30 for 30 special that aired a couple of nights ago on ESPN. I'll probably take a look at that tonight. But I've heard a lot of reviews on it, and I've heard a lot of what you guys are telling me, and it sounds like it's going to be exactly what I expect it to be. And I do want to take a look at it because I like the story of the XFL. The whole thing was so fucking crazy. All the stuff that went on and why it didn't work and why it even happened and just what a clusterfuck the whole damn thing was. It'll be interesting to see ESPN's take on that and all the people they interviewed. So I appreciate everybody that's been letting me know that it was pretty good and to check it out. And I definitely will. And I'm just sorry that I wasn't able to check it out before I recorded this episode. Also, right before I started recording this episode, I did glance over at a news site and I did see a story about Mike Adamle. Apparently might have dementia. He's come out and announced that he has been diagnosed with dementia, which is horrible. That's a life ender right there. That's a horrible disease. I think he has CTE as well. He's a former football player, and I know he was the punchline of a lot of jokes because the way he would constantly fuck up his lines and stuff when he was the general manager of Raw, and his whole stint in the WWE was just very bizarre. I don't even know why they brought him in or what the point of it was. He even worked, ironically, in the XFL. I think he was a play-by-play guy there. So very sad to hear that because dementia is very serious. As a matter of fact, Pat Summitt, the legendary ladies basketball coach for the Tennessee Volunteers, she announced that she had that, and I think she died like within 3 years of the announcement and of her retiring from coaching. So once you have that, it's not good. So thoughts and positive vibes go out to Mike Adamle and his entire family, and good luck with the whole thing. Very sad to hear that. And now finally, before I get out of here, why don't we just run down what the WrestleMania card is looking like? I know I've talked a lot about WrestleMania and the potential plans for this all throughout this commentary, but as far as the matches that we have kind of written down, it looks like this. We got Brock Lesnar and Goldberg, probably the main event, probably for the Universal title. It's not definite, but it's looking like that's a possibility. I talked plenty about that match earlier on. You guys know my feelings there. I also talked a ton about Roman Reigns and The Undertaker, so you guys know where I stand on that issue. So that's another big match that we're going to have. Most likely, we're also going to get Chris Jericho versus Kevin Owens. Triple H and Seth Rollins is up in the air, depending on Seth's injury. If he can go, great, let's have the match. If he can't, I think they just need to scrap the match altogether, and Triple H needs to just sit back in Gorilla and watch the fucking show from his comfortable leather chair. We also have the rumors of AJ Styles versus Shane McMahon. They still have to set that whole thing up. They teased it a few weeks ago on SmackDown, so the only thing I can think of, maybe AJ Styles comes up short in the Elimination Chamber match, and he demands that Shane McMahon gives him that one-on-one rematch that he promised him, but maybe something happens in that rematch, and AJ can't win the belt back, and it pisses him off even more, and he goes after Shane, and they just wind up having a match that way. To be honest, this is a match I don't want to see at WrestleMania. Even though I'm okay with the card, I think the card is decent looking, and I think will be better than last year's. AJ Styles is just too valuable to be in there with Vince's kid, who just wants to go out there and jump off shit. I have a ton of respect for Shane and the gigantic set of balls this guy has, but a match with AJ Styles, I'm sure it'll be good. I'm sure the guys can go out there and ooh and ah, and I'm sure Shane will do something crazy, and I'm sure AJ will do something crazy. They will both fly off the top rope through announce tables and all that stuff. I'm certain of it, but still, AJ Styles to me is WWE champion. He carried that belt so awesomely for the past few months. I would love to see him be involved in a title match, and then if he can't, I don't know, just Shane McMahon is just something that, I don't know, I'm just lukewarm to. Right now, it's not something that I'm looking that forward to. I guess in a way it's good because Shane McMahon, also always has pretty memorable matches, especially WrestleMania matches. So even though AJ's opponent isn't the greatest, the match itself, AJ Styles versus Shane McMahon, is still going to be a really high-profile match on the card. So I guess maybe the glass half full type of thing is me trying to say, okay, AJ, yeah, you're not working with the title, but you're working with a pretty huge figure in the WWE. This is the owner's son. He's always really involved in big-time matches and situations, and he worked with The Undertaker last year, so AJ Styles could be on the kickoff show with Dolph Ziggler or something like that, so it could definitely be worse, but, just on paper, it's just a match that I'm kind of like, whatever. Also, it still remains to be seen what they do with John Cena, if he's going to indeed work this mixed tag with Nikki against The Miz and Maurice. I mean, John Cena wasn't even on WrestleMania last year, other than his brief appearance with The Rock because he was injured, and now this year he's going to be in a mixed tag in the middle of the card. So it's nice to see John Cena not being such a big part of things anymore, I have to say. Also, the Big Show and Shaq, is that still a thing? This is another match that as a wrestling fan I have no interest in seeing, but as a WWE fan, as a WrestleMania fan, and knowing what the WWE generally does on big shows like this is going to get them a shit ton of publicity. It's going to be all over ESPN and the media and all that crap. So if they do wind up going through with this match, it's going to be horrible to look at. I can't imagine how long it would be. Maybe they'll surprise us, but I doubt it. And you got to think history will repeat itself again, and Big Show will become the bitch of the outsiders. I mean, every time somebody from the outside world comes into wrestling, they defeat the Big Show at WrestleMania. Floyd Mayweather and Akibono and Shaq and whoever else I'm missing. That Big Show has done a job for that isn't a wrestler. This will be no different, and I'm sure Shaq will get the victory. I also mentioned match possibilities for guys like Samoa Joe and Braun Strowman and Sami Zayn. I think Strowman and Zayn can possibly still do something together. We also have the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. I think as far as whoever wins that, gosh, right now, like I said, it could be Strowman or it could be Joe or it could even be Sammy. But I have a feeling it'll be somebody other than those guys. I just can't think of who it would be right now. That'll be your one interpromotional match, I guess, as you're going to have a bunch of SmackDown and Raw guys mixed in. Other than that, you got to wonder if they're going to add any interpromotional matches. You would think they got to have one or two. I would love to see AJ be involved in one of those instead of a match with Shane. You've also got to wonder what Dean Ambrose is going to do. Are they going to have another ladder match for the Intercontinental title? They've done that in the past couple of years. That could be another match that could be interpromotional, and maybe Raw has a chance to score the Intercontinental title somehow by getting some guys involved in that. But you know what? To be honest, I'm kind of sick of seeing that. I know they have to have the type of match where a whole bunch of guys can be a part of WrestleMania and they can all get their respective WrestleMania moments, but I think it might be nice to go back and have a one-on-one match for the IC belt this year. Change it up a little bit. They've been doing the ladder match every year to kind of replace the Money in the Bank that they used to do at WrestleMania, so I know that they need a match like that, but maybe this time Dean just defends it one-on-one. I don't know. Also, you got to know that legends are probably going to be involved in this thing. I hope we see Kurt Angle get involved somehow on WWE TV, on Raw or SmackDown leading up to WrestleMania. Hopefully, The Rock will fly in and make an appearance in this. He's been good about that since he's wrestled his last match. He's been there every year. He was at 30, he was at 31, he was at 32, doing something and doing some sort of a segment. So hopefully, we'll see Rocky. Hopefully, we'll see Stone Cold. Maybe Shawn Michaels. Maybe Bret Hart. Ric Flair, I'm sure, will be a part of this, and maybe even possibly Hulk Hogan. Why not? I think everything with Hulk is blown over. He's a big part of WrestleMania, and if they can get him in there last minute to do some sort of an appearance or be on TV, I think the crowd would pop pretty hard for that. So hopefully we'll have all those same surprises that we have every year with legends making random appearances and doing random things on the card. I think it can be a lot of fun. And right now, on paper, although I don't agree with every match, I definitely think this card isn't horrible, and depending where they go storyline-wise with some of these matches, with Brock potentially winning the Universal title, with Roman Reigns potentially retiring the Undertaker, Shane McMahon jumping off the top of the fucking arena or something like that, I think WrestleMania definitely has potential to be a lot better than last year, and I truly hope that it is. So anyway, I think that's it for me. I got to get out of here, get this thing edited and uploaded into you. I feel like I haven't talked to you guys in a week, so let's go ahead and wrap this up now. Like I said, please join me on Twitter at GoodMicWork this coming Sunday night during the Elimination Chamber. I'll be live tweeting throughout the whole show, and I'll be up with a results video a few hours after that. After that video, I'll be back up here around my normal time, late Wednesday night, discussing Raw and SmackDown and what FastLane is looking like and whether Bray Wyatt is or is not the WWE champion, and we'll have a lot to talk about next week. So you guys take care, enjoy the rest of your week, enjoy Elimination Chamber, and I will talk to you in just a couple of days. Until next time, peace.